Okay, hopefully you got some new vacation ideas. Planning for cheap trips won't break the budget. That was a more fun module. This module can be scary to some people. It could be fun to others. I don't know. It's on compound interest. Everyone needs to understand compound interest. So I'm hoping you learn something new. And if not, then you're already master compound interest. I don't know why you're taking this course, but that's great too. But here it is, compound interest. This is a real quote, Einstein saying this. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it, which is huge. This was after college. Once I started diving into my budget, all I was focused on was compound interest. I was obsessed with it in my 20s on how to save every dollar I could to earn 7 times that when I'm a certain age, etc. How to retire early. How do I quit doing this boring office job with compound interest? So that being said, like Einstein says, he who doesn't understand it pays it. And that's credit cards, all your bad debt that I talked about earlier, how it can really hurt you fast and forever, and you're going to be stuck. So I love preaching that credit cards are awesome. They can help your credit score, they can help cash back, pay for trips, everything like that. But that's only if you pay them off at the end of the month, every month, and never hold a balance, which is hard for some people to understand, or they don't track it. And then at the end of the month, it's higher than they expected. So that's why I preach checking your expenses every week. So you're on top of it. If you're spending, you know you can stop, because compound interest on credit cards can bite you in the butt real fast. Understanding, can double, triple, annualized interest rates. What does that mean? Interest on top of interest. That's compound interest, which even those terms people might not have their brain wrapped around. And only paying the minimum is what really gets you too. And student loan income-based repayment plans that Shannon did. I want to dive into all that. So here we go. So this is a credit card that has an annual interest rate of 20%, which is low. Your credit card now might have 30%. So let's say you maxed out a credit card and didn't pay the minimum on it at all. I don't know if this is even possible, but I just want to show you how fast that balance can double. So after 1 year, that $3,000 turns into $3,720. After 2 years, $4,500. Okay, if you think that in a percentage, so you would think 20% annual interest on a $3,000 credit card. Well, what would that be? 10% would be $300. So 20% would be $600 a year. Okay, reasonable. Maybe I'll just pay the interest every month. But since it compounds on each other, so this is the interest 1 month, okay? Now the interest on this principal plus that extra 50 interest, it adds up another 80 cents. Then it adds up another 251, 5, 8, boom, 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 all the way down to what you thought you would pay. The 20% on $3,000 a year would be $600. It's actually $119 more, because you have to pay interest on top of interest, which is compounding interest. And that starts to grow and grow and grow. So after 2 years, you would think, oh, 20% interest on my maxed out credit card of $3,000 after 2 years should be $1,200 in interest. No, because of the compound interest, it's actually $1,535. But you say, well, I'll pay the minimum. Even paying the minimum, you max out this credit card on your Rolex or whatever. I don't know how much that costs. And you say, I make the $25 payment a year, or the minimum. Maybe I'm just covering the interest. You're not. So even with the minimum, you're up $360 on that card after 1 year, $767 on 2 years. Very scary. Oh, what did I recommend? Christmas gifts. I was making this in Christmas. So let's say you paid nothing on that $3,000 for 10 years. Now you owe $22,168. 7 times. It's flipped 7 times, doubled 7 times, 7 times what the original principal was. If you make no payments on that $3,000 on a credit card, 20%, which nowadays is probably closer to 30%, which is even higher. But if you're just paying the minimum, you think, oh, I'll pay the minimum until one day my grandpa dies and I'll pay it off. Let's say you pay the minimum for 10 years on that $3,000. Now you owe $12,500 with paying the minimum of $25, and you've paid $300 a year for 10 years. You've paid the amount of that credit card. You've paid in $3,000. You've paid it back, but with interest, you actually owe $12,584. Insane. So imagine if it was 30%, it'd be even crazier. So here's another situation. Here is what Shannon's student loans were when she came out of college. She had $50,000 balance, around 7%. And she did income-based repayment because she was a news anchor in West Virginia making, I think, $29,000 a year, very small amount of money. So she couldn't afford to pay any more on her student loan. She probably couldn't even afford this at the time. I think she was nannying to afford this. So she was paying this minimum thinking she was lowering her balance. But look, at this, even a 7% rate, paying $125 a month on this $50,000 balance, which most people probably have $100,000 on a student loan at least, she was growing her balance $160 the first month. It went up after paying $125. After 1 year, she was up $2,244 and made payments of $125 a month for a year. So I think it was 18 months. She said at one point when she caught it, when she quit her job and moved back to Pittsburgh, and she was starting to be a little more open with her finances with me. She's like, why do I owe $4,000 more than what I originally started with? I'm like, well, you must be paying less than the interest is on it. She's like, I'm paying the minimum what they tell me, but the minimum is less than the interest accruing, which is mind-blowing that people don't understand. Why would you understand? You would assume it's on some kind of payback plan that would help you, but it's not. So she paid in, I think for 18 months, $125 a month and gained $4,000 on her principal. So after paying $125 a month, she owes $54,000 instead of $50,000. That's understanding interest rates. So imagine if you had $50,000 on a credit card, how fast you could be screwed just forever. And then if she would have stuck on this, let's say she stuck on that plan for 10 years, she would have owed $79,000 and paid $125 a month for 10 years. Incredible. I think I did the math over here. She would owe $29,000 more and paid over $15,000 towards them. So it would have been a net loss of $44,000 if she would have did this for 10 years, thinking that she was paying off her credit card or her student loans. So you're saying, Alex, interest rate is the worst. Compound interest, it's the worst thing in the world. It's worse than anything I can imagine. And it is, unless you use it to your advantage. So that's when I show you here too, and in the next module, how to use compound interest to your advantage. So this, people say, put your money in a Roth IRA, retirement account, etc. So if you put $500 in a Roth IRA, your 401k, you're making 8% annually. And say you started when you were 30 until you were 60 when you could pull it out of the account. Instead of putting in your savings account in your bank and you get 0.01% on cash, stock market on average will say makes between 10 and 5% long term. So just for this, I'm using 8. I normally use 8 when I compound it. So you're maxing out your Roth IRA, you're smart, and you're investing it. Different topic, but you can see if you put in $6,000 for the year, $500 a month, you would think you have $6,000, but no, you have $6,224. You made that much in 1 year of interest. So you think, oh, I'll make that every year. No, it starts to compound on your money. Your money starts to compound on the interest that you're accumulating. So you put in 12 grand, your savings, long-term savings. Now you're at, $13,500. So you're up $1,500 in 2 years. just by putting in $500 a month into your retirement account, making 8%. So imagine if you were the credit card company making 30% on your investments. That'd be insane how fast you can make money. This is how the rich people get rich. So then let's say you're in your retirement account for 10 years and you put 6,000 in a year. So you put in 60 grand in 10 years. You think, I'm the man or the woman, whoever. You are. That's incredible. That's great savings. But if you invest in the stock market, you have that 60 grand plus another $32,000. Amazing. And in a Roth IRA, it's tax free. So you don't have to pay any tax on that. You made $32,000 tax free, which is incredible. So this is what I focused on in my 20s because I luckily didn't have credit card debt. My parents taught me how bad debt was. So I focused on this thinking, how can I save more and more to invest, to make more money so I can stop working faster? And that's how compound interest runs the world for you to make your life the way you want it. So, homework. Use not only your financial calculator app, but I'll share my screen again here. This is another handout I gave you here. So this is a spreadsheet I was screenshotting. So play with this. So if you're making a payment, this is a beginning balance. This would be your loan outstanding balance. So we'll say she had her 54,000 after we caught it at 7% interest. So she needs to, and then we're making negative for paying off a loan. She did 500 a month. How long would it take her to pay it off? Well, after 10 years, she paid off half. So maybe she needs if she wants to pay it off in 10 years, we can check 1,000 a month. There, take her a little over 5 years paid off, 1,000 a month. So this you can understand. If you don't understand the financial calculator app, maybe this will understand it better. So if you want to save money, saying you're investing in the stock market and you have no money in the stock market, or you already have a 401k with $10,000 in it. You're like, oh, well, I didn't know I was making that much. So I want to bump up my savings to $500, like Alex said. So you had 10,000 in there. You put another 6, boom, you're up $1,600 that first year. So then after 10 years, you can see how fast this compounds. So this is the incentive I want you to understand to, one, pay off those credit card payments, because that is, we'll say 30, and you're making a minimum of 100 on your $5,000 balance. You're not covering the interest. If you're paying $100 a month on that 30, it just keeps going up and up and up. So I really want you to understand how bad these high interest debt is, and how good investing in, let's say we'll go into this in the future module, you invest in your business, your own personal business that makes 20% return, whatever that may be, like your drone business, your camera business we're talking about, and you scale it. This is how Tesla, Elon Musk, Bill Gates made their millions, because they can create a business that returns an insane rate of return, like a 20 or 30%, and they put in $1,000 a month or something like that. And you can see how fast this grows. That's the buku cash, is if you can scale a business yourself, which average Joes probably won't do. We'll probably just put in the stock market and hope that it keeps growing like this and we'll retire, which is still a lot of money. But if you want to be the richest person in the world, you got to create a business that will grow at 20, 30, 50% annually. That's a different topic. But I think this spreadsheet is simple enough that you just change these numbers over here in the yellow and can understand the powers of compound interest and how fast they can hurt you, and how fast or however it can make you very wealthy. So that's the next step is investing in yourself, investing in any business, any stock market, any real estate after you have your 6 months of expenses. So then you can start investing to make your money make its own money. But first, before we do that, we totally have to understand these credit cards and the bad debt we have, not the good debt. So that's your homework. Check out that spreadsheet I made for you, and check out that financial calculator app. Mess with that, and we'll look more into it in the next module. So hopefully that one was a little more fun.